Do you believe that?
No, I don't. I think that she didn't know, because I think he rehearsed his intention, his script, if you will, to her endlessly. They spent a lot of time together, not only at work, but of course living together. I think she knew.
How important was the idea of ritual and patterns to Ian Brady in these murders?
With the benefit of hindsight, it looks very important. I'm struck by themes here that the bodies are not to be discovered, but Brady is to know where they are. In the notebook that the police interrogated Brady on, there was a phrase which indicated that he would check whether the site was undisturbed. And I think that's part of ritual, and obsessional, if you will, that the bodies are still there.
The photograph taken on John Kilbride's grave is not a one-off. When the Moors murderers were caught, the police found pictures taken at the grave of Leslie Ann Downey. Keith Bennett died between these two murders. Because of this, I decide to search for any like it among those sent to me. Myra Hindley's description of Keith Bennett's disappearance is the most detailed of all the murders.
I hadn't wanted this to happen. I was tense and terrified, and I tried to concentrate my mind miles away from where I was. Finally, after what I think was roughly half an hour, by which time dusk had begun to descend, I heard him whistle or call, and when I stood up, he was waving me back down to the stream bed. Virtually nothing was said as we made our way back, except for him saying the spade was hampering him, and he'd have to hide it, which he did.
Keith Bennett's brother and sisters were at their grandmother's house, waiting for him to join them for the night.
Keith was supposed to follow us up later, but he didn't. There was no, and obviously there's no phones or anything. None of us had phones or anything them days, so we just presumed, or my gran presumed, he'd changed his mind. You know, he decided not to come. And you know, think about now, the horrible thing is that night, you know, we're all safely at Grand, we're all safely tucked up in bed. You know, and obviously, you know, we were all asleep. You know, Keith had already been murdered at that stage. He'd been taken away and been murdered. But I used to talk to him still every night time. You know, where are you, Keith? You know, when you're coming home, you know what's happened to you, and just really, you know, strange things. But it was never ever the same again. You know what I mean? Obviously.
In describing the murders, Myra Hindley always claimed she wasn't there when the children died. Distancing herself from their sexual abuse and the act of killing was central to her case for freedom. But she completely failed to provide an account of the murder of Leslie Ann Downey. She was abducted from a fairground and taken back to their house in Hattersley. A tape recording of Myra Hindley shouting at the 10-year-old girl not to spit out a gag was a key piece of evidence in her conviction. I repeatedly pressed her on why she had excluded this from her account.
I'm finding it very, very difficult to do this Leslie Ann Downey thing. I think I'll have to be as brief as possible. There was that tape, which isn't what people think it is, but it's bad enough, and I just hurt so much to think that I could have been such a cruel bastard.
The Moors murderers were caught when Ian Brady made a mistake. He beat 17-year-old Edward Evans to death in front of Myra Hindley's brother-in-law. After the killing, David Smith went to the police.
And the next morning, there was a knock on the back door, and I opened the door. And to cut a long story short, it was a policeman dressed in a baker's uniform, his jacket and hat. It had sunblast on the pocket. And the first thing I said was, "You've got the wrong house. We have Mother's Pride."
When the police entered the house, they discovered the body of Edward Evans. Ian Brady was arrested immediately. Over the next 3 days, officers uncovered a large collection of mementos to the murders, and evidence that linked Hindley to them. She was arrested and taken to the cells beneath Hyde Magistrates' Court, where the now infamous arrest photograph was taken. Within 10 days, the police had recovered the bodies of Leslie Ann Downey and John Kilbride. Ian Brady's photographs were central to their search.
My solicitor told me they'd found the body of a child, identified as Leslie Ann Downey. Did I know anything about it? And I said no. I think a week after that, I'm not sure, they found John Kilbride's body. And they charged me with the murder of, I think it was the murder of John Kilbride. Yes, it was. They set me down behind a table, and on the table was a large poster of John Kilbride, and they had this album of photographs, and they said to me, "Will you just identify these pictures or photos, or tell us if you've seen them before?" And I looked, and it was a moorland scene. And I couldn't say I hadn't, because I was standing on a rock, and I said, yes. And then they turned over the page, and it was horrendous. It was a picture, a photograph of just after they'd unearthed the body of John Kilbride. And I turned my head away, and I said, "I'm not looking at that. Please close that book."
When Brady and Hindley were arrested, did you and your family immediately realise that it was them who'd taken Keith?
Yeah, I think, well, the parents did, and then my auntie did, my gran did. Well, especially when we found out Brady lived just up the road, just over the road from the school, we went to. As time went on, we heard this, the police were saying, we believe, that these know something about Keith, but we can't prove it, and our family knew at that stage, with Brady and Lee were the last people to see Keith, but there was just nothing to prove it. But like I said, the police were telling us that, off the record, if you like. But your neighbours, friends, the family, everybody, knew that it had something to do with Keith's disappearance.
A few days after her arrest, Myra Hindley wrote the first of several hundred letters to her mother. This unguarded correspondence, which she asked to be destroyed after being read, strips bare the true nature of her relationship with Ian Brady. It also reveals that the Moores murderers were obsessed with controlling what happened to the photographs taken during their relationship.
Keep all the photos for us, for reasons. Ones of the dogs, scenery, etc. 11th of December 1965. Dear Ma'am, if you would drop Ian a short note and a box of Maltesers, I'd be glad. Believe me, ma'am, when I say 99% of Smith's evidence against Ian and I, particularly Ian, is lies, nothing else. 29th of December 1965. Dear Ma'am, on Christmas Eve at tea time, Mrs. Brady brought Ian and I a meal in. We had half a chicken each, turkey sandwiches, half a bottle of Sandeman's port wine, chocolate biscuits, and Swiss rolls. I really enjoyed it. It was almost like being at home again. Mr. Curtis, my counsel, wrote here, asking them to give me permission to have my hair bleached, as the dark roots are very much in evidence. But permission has been refused, so I'll appear at the trial looking terrible with streaky, lifeless hair. I can't even have it trimmed or thinned. It's a constant source of irritation. 27th of March, 1966. Dear Ma'am, as you know, the trial begins 3 weeks on Tuesday. Could you bring me a bottle of makeup? It's Pond's Angel Face, shade Golden Rose.